Welcome to the Cosmic Download for November 2018. I'm intuitive Anna Francesca Celestino.
And I'm astrologer Simone Butler.
Well, this is kind of a big month here. We've got the U.S. Midterm elections coming up. And what are your thoughts about that, Simone? Where are we headed?
Well, it happens to coincide with a new moon in Scorpio, which is kind of a deep, intense, raw, emotional time. The new moon is on the 7th, which is that morning, like the morning after the election. So I think no matter how you toss it, some people are going to be very, very upset. But that's easy to say, right? However, because Mercury is slowing down now, getting ready to go retrograde, the degree that it hits on the day of the election is going to be repeated twice more. So that says to me that there may be contested elections, there may be inconclusive data, things that are, up in the air. And the day of the morning of the election itself, the moon is opposed Uranus, which is the most erratic possible energy. And then the Mercury in Sagittarius, which is prone to rabble rousing, is going to be in Sagittarius for longer than usual, all the way through early January because of the retrograde. So, I think it's going to be a free-for-all. That's about all I can say. How about you?
I think that's a pretty good description. Up until a couple weeks ago, I didn't want to say anything, but things did not look good in terms of a liberal outcome. But I'm actually starting to feel like there's some potential there. I don't know which way this is going to go. I kind of feel like it's going to be a close call. And the thing that I was thinking about it, though, is I know it would be helpful if we could give a definitive outcome. But for me, I'm always looking at the bigger picture, the evolutionary process that we're in. And I feel like, whatever the outcome of this election, we can use it as a gauge to sort of see where we're at collectively in terms of our evolution and our growth. So I think we're going to be able to see what percentage of the population is wanting change and growth and progress, and what percentage wants to sort of hold on to the past and the way that things have been. And then we're also going to see, what portion of the population is not quite engaged yet in this process. So I know it's just a U.S. election, but I think it'll be pretty representative of what's going on the planet. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, I have my own personal hopes about what's going to happen, but I feel like, I want to kind of see where we're at. And I think it's kind of neck and neck at this point. So see how active people are. And I just signed up today to make phone calls for moveon.org. And
I think good for you.
Yeah, I think we have to get involved and take action. So
well,
kind of where I stand.
One thing that just happened in the last day or so is Venus just moved back into Libra. Venus is still retrograde, but it's retrograde now in Libra, where it will spend the rest of its retrograde through mid-month and through the end of November. And Venus is actually very happy in Libra. It's all about peace and justice. So I think we're going to be hearing a lot of talk and seeing a lot of action around those topics.
Yeah, and I think whatever the outcome of this midterm election, there's going to continue to be a build to the 2018 or the 2020 election. So I think, who knows, maybe we need more motivation to stay on it and keep pushing for that election. Maybe if we get what we want here, again, I don't know what side people's politics are on, but yeah, it may, we don't want people to get complacent before the 2020 election. So we'll see what happens with that. I know you and I had just a brief conversation before we started this about this paradigm shift that I've been talking about. And so maybe you want to comment on that, and then I'll sort of support my argument over here.
To me, maybe it's just a definition of terms, but to me, a paradigm shift is enormous. It's like a complete and utter change in one's reality. And frankly, I don't really see that right now. The big news this month is Jupiter moving into its own sign of Sagittarius, which can certainly, because that's fire, Jupiter is very happy in Sagittarius and it wants to go. It wants to see that big picture and it wants to make a beeline for it. So, but Jupiter's in Sagittarius every 12 years. In and of itself, that would not qualify in my mind as a paradigm shift, although it certainly can expand our reality or encourage us to move in that direction.
Yeah, and I think it's semantics in some ways, because the words that you're using for that are very much what I've been describing. To me, it's a shift in perspective. So we may be, maybe nothing changes around us, but how we see our lives and how we see how we want to be living our lives, the choices that we're making, all of that, that's the shift that I feel is coming this month, if it hasn't already for you. So, I think maybe that's tied to what you were just talking about in terms of that bigger picture, because that's what I really feel like I've been feeling leading up to this, just this almost excruciating internal pressure that I feel is just like pushing me through a very small opening. It's almost like a rebirth into something new for myself. And so I was thinking about, to help people create that shift in perspective, get to that bigger picture, that often there's a false belief that we're holding on to that's keeping us in a limited state. And so I have a shortcut. I love shortcuts too. I love shortcuts to personal growth. And so the shortcut that I am suggesting for this month in terms of identifying that false belief that you may have been holding that's keeping you in that smaller perspective, stuck in that old paradigm, is to ask yourself, what do I feel hopeless about? About my life, what do I feel hopeless about? And I know, people want to be positive and all that stuff, and that's not a question we like to ask, and it's not a place that we like to go. But I'm a shadow worker. I don't mind going into those dark corners at all. And I think that asking ourselves, what do I feel hopeless about? When you ask that question, my experience has been when I ask that of myself, I discover some belief that I'm holding about my life, about myself, about how life works. And if you can ask that question and then look at the answer to see what about that is untrue. What belief am I holding that I'd have to believe in order for that statement to be true? We can come out the other side with a new belief formulated around that. So that's my suggestion for this month of, to help push through that opening and into a new perspective.
Well, I would definitely say that as far as what I'm going to be doing and offering to others this month is to create literally a big picture, like to collage your image of where you would like to be headed. Now's the time to look at the long term. And with Jupiter moving into Sagittarius, Mercury is going to be extra long in Sagittarius. Sagittarius it's the archer, right? He's aiming toward the goal. It may take us a while to get there, and we don't want to get super frustrated that we're not there already. But it's very important to have a destination as far as where you're headed. And even if you aren't clear on what that is, my experience is when you sit down with a bunch of magazines or pre-cut images or whatever, and then you let your subconscious mind participate in the creation of a vision board or a collage, whatever you want to call it, sometimes you can be really surprised by what emerges. And so I want to invite anybody who is in the San Diego area to join me on Saturday, November 10th at 2 p.m. at my home, where we will be doing exactly that, as well as looking at people's charts to see in what house of your chart, Jupiter is entering Sagittarius, because that's where you can expect a lot of either good fortune or intensification or opportunities coming forward in the next year that Jupiter spends in that part of your chart.
Anything else that you have for us for this month?
Well, I wrote about this in my blog that I'm about to post probably tomorrow, so you'll read more. But I was just so struck this last week. I get this magazine called The Week. Maybe you're familiar with it. It's a roundup of what's happening around the world in the week that just passed. And the Scorpio stories were just like, oh my God, the worst. Maybe you heard about it. This is so Scorpio. It's disgusting, but I have to share it. About the guys, I think somewhere on the East Coast, that had to dive 90 feet in total darkness into raw human sewage.
Oh, God.
I know, to clear away a blockage that was formed from wet wipes. You know, those supposedly flushable wipes. Well, and these guys spent hours. They were in wetsuits, right? But even so, when they got out, they had to spray them with full-strength bleach before they could take their wet.
Why are we hearing this story?
Oh, my God. I was like, this is Scorpio. You've got to go to the depths, sometimes through some really ugly, murky stuff, whether it's feelings or, you know, the past or stuff that you really would rather just stayed buried. But in order to clear the blockage, sometimes it's necessary to go in and just yank out that stuff and, you know, to come out the other side. And so bear that in mind, because with this new moon in Scorpio, it's still coloring the whole month of November. So, yeah.
When you put it that way, I can completely relate. I made that same dive this past week. In fact, I was calling friends on Monday going, oh my God, get me out of this horrible place that I'm in. So I think I actually could relate to that. And I think, you know, again, I feel like that for me, that was part of the pressure that was building. It's like, I just can't do this. I can't do my life this way anymore. Not that everything was bad, but certain aspects, I just need to be bigger. I need to be more available. I need to expose myself to the world more.
Yeah.
In a very decent way. So
let's hope so.
Yes. So yeah. So oh boy. All right. So anyway, if you're going through that kind of pressurized situation, please stay with it, because there is an opening to go through to come out the other side. My friends are invaluable to me in terms of holding that space. We were talking in my Shift System Mastery group yesterday about the power of holding space for one another. I feel like this is a time we're on such a grand adventure, and there's the opportunity to really, I was thinking about the Star Trek thing of going, you know, beyond into the, however that goes, the bold and the whatever, to go into new, you know, new territory. And that's what we're about to do here. So let's all hold hands and, you know, make that leap together.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Or woman. There we go. Thank you, Simone. I should know that. So let's, like I said, let's hold hands. Let's go together. No man or woman left behind. Let's do it together and, you know, be reborn into a whole.
Scorpio rules birth as well as death. So the death has to come before the new birth. Yeah. So what you were saying earlier about you feel like you're being squeezed out. Well, birth can be painful. I don't think it has to be, but it's just discomfort at the very least. Yeah. Because, you know, it feels like, but it has to come out. And so realize that that's the process we're in. Something new is being born on this planet. We may not see the results of it immediately, but it's a process. We're going through the birth canal, so have faith. I'm telling myself this as much as I'm telling you, because it's easy to lose hope when you're in the process. It's like it's dark, you know, there's sewage all around.
Poopy. Oh my gosh. Well, and the last thing I want to say about this is that in the bigger picture, not on an individual sense, but on a collective sense, we're making cultural shifts. And to shift a culture is enormous and it takes time. So let's not lose patience about it. Let's just look for where we're seeing the progress and the movement and keep on going.
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. All righty. Well, I think we've done it for November. And we hope you have a great, powerful, uplifting, outbursting new month. And we'll see you on the other side of this paradigm shift in December.
Bye-bye.